I'm Danelle.
And I'm Andy.
And we're parents and ministry leaders still learning to disciple not only the kids in our own homes, but the kids in our ministries.
So we're having conversations with innovative leaders who are fostering a strong partnership between the church and the home.
This is the Nurturing Faith Collective podcast.
And we are back. Wow, Danelle, so good to see you today.
So good to see you again, Andy.
Was that a woohoo?
That was a whoop whoop.
Oh,
so
a
good
whoop
to be
whoop.
back. Oh, whatever. It could be a woohoo. It could be a whoop whoop.
I just didn't get the memo that we had a catchphrase, that our podcast had the catchphrase of whoop whoop.
Well, we do now.
So hey, everybody, look on the social medias. You'll be able to find links to our new merch that says whoop whoop with Danelle's face on it.
And a fist bump up in the air.
I love it. Well, I know why you're excited. I know we're excited because we genuinely enjoy recording these episodes together. Because, we enjoy one another, but also because we have some tremendous guests. And I am still thinking about our previous episode with Jeff Weldon. What a great conversation he had around church planting. And honestly, the friends that have asked me questions about it, the only thing they want to know more about is the dynamic of having one spouse. His wife is the lead pastor of the church, and he is then doing all of the next gen, all the family ministry, and just all of the opportunities and challenges that may arise from that. And
that's one way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, that is one way to put it. But they're doing some great work. But today we're really excited.
Yes, we got to hear from Dr. Luz Galvez de Figueroa, who is the creator and founder and director of Entre Niños, which is one of the three partnerships that put together the Nurturing Faith Collective. So we've got Bethel Seminary, we've got Entre Niños, and then we have Growth Rings. And we have been trying to track this lady down because she is traveling the world all the time, sharing the gospel, using her skills that God has given her to partner with other contexts and ministries. And so we got to finally sit down and chat with her today, and it was so good.
Yeah. I mean, really, we mentioned in the teaser episode for this podcast, if you have ever listened to that, I don't mean you, Danelle, I think you have listened to that, but I mean the listener who is currently listening to this.
I remember.
Yeah. But we mentioned, this partnership between Bethel and Growth Rings and Entre Niños. And really, who are you or I to talk about ministry in the Latino context and culture? But you and I are leaders who are leading in local churches and trying to figure out how do we build relationships with the Latino community around us. And Dr. Luz delivered today. Mm-hmm. So there are some very practical tips on how we can begin to build relationships and begin to share the gospel with this community, who, by the way, is experiencing some of the same, parenting kind of things that we are. They want the best for their kids. They feel like they don't have enough time to disciple them, and so it was just such a beautiful conversation.
This episode is going to be a great one for everybody. No matter what your context, no matter what your culture, this will be one that is beneficial. So we are excited to bring to you Dr. Luz Galvez de Figueroa. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Nurturing Faith Collective podcast. I'm Danelle, and I've got Andy here with me, and we have a brand new special guest. One of our executive team members, Dr. Luz Galvez de Figueroa, is here with us. Hi, Luz.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are so excited to have you here. Can't wait to chat with you and learn from you today. Just a few things about Dr. Luz before we dive in is Luz is the director and the founder of Entre Niños, which is one of the partnerships that has formed the Nurturing Faith Collective. And so we are excited. Luz, would you just tell us a little bit about you, about your family, or anything you want to share with those that are listening?
Yes, thank you again for having me. It is humbling to be part of, I feel humbled to be part of this initiative with Nurturing Faith Collective. We've been friends with Dr. Denise for maybe 15 years, and we connected in one of a CPC events, and we've been involved in in different levels of ministry with the same topics and things. But a few years ago, we connected about my desire to have a certificate program in Spanish, very much what Bethel does with INCM. And we were able to launch that in Spanish, completely online, completely in Spanish, in partnership with Bethel. And at that time we were very working very closely with Dr. Denise, and then the idea of this new initiative came, and like how to partner home and church. And we had the same heart, the same desire to see this not only for a group of people, but for everyone. And my heart is to support the Latino families, Latino parents, and Latino ministry leaders. And we've been doing that with Entre Niños for 20 years. We celebrated our 20 years. So we live
Wow.
in with my husband in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada, but we travel throughout the U.S. and Latin America. And with giving with Entre Niños, our mission is to provide training, encouragement, connection, and resources to all of those who serve children in Jesus' name. And the Entre Niños means among children. So for everyone that is serving children in Jesus' name.
You know, I want to go back for just a second to the certificate program, because I'm
Yes.
thinking there may be people listening, who may not be aware of that. And you both, I don't play a role in this, but you both play different roles in the certificate program. Danelle, do you want to share a bit about the program, and then Luz, maybe you can go a little deeper on the development of that for the Latino community.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. So the certificate program was started, I think was it 2014? 2014,
Yeah.
I
I don't
think.
know. Yeah, I believe you.
We're just gonna run with that,
Yeah.
okay? 2014. And it was this idea, that not everyone is gonna be able to go to seminary. Not everyone's going to be able to get that training, and maybe don't even want to, but there's that desire for an extra level of learning. And this partnership was formed between Bethel Seminary and the International Network of Children's Ministry. And they decided to partner together to offer this certificate to anyone that was wanting just to go that extra step and develop their leadership. And it was currently, or when it was created, it was the current concept was just an advanced certificate in children's ministry. And so that really has been the start of a a huge network of students who have participated in the certificate. And so I participated in that very first program, or what do you call it, cohort, the very first group. We were the guinea pigs, and loved every moment of it. And we I can say now I would not be where I am today if I hadn't gone through that certificate program, because that was really the start for me to become a more, not that I wasn't, qualified, but definitely equipped as a children's ministry leader. Through that program, it led me then to pursue my master's at Bethel Seminary, and I now facilitate in that program. So I have gone through the whole thing from
Right.
student to then jumping onto the master's program, through Bethel Seminary, to now being a facilitator in the family ministry certificate. And so that certificate is very wonderful, but it has a really sweet spot in my heart and in my
Right.
story.
Luz, did you come through the certificate program as well?
No, the Master of Arts in Spiritual Formation from Carey Theological College here in part of the University of British Columbia organization. And so, and then in order to take the doctor program, Bethel require MDiv, and I did that as well. And at the same time, I started the doctor program at Bethel. So it was very busy years, but thanks God, I was able to complete my doctorate at Bethel, and I enjoyed very much.
So you were familiar with Bethel. You had then become a student. You knew of the certificate program that was happening through INCM. And then you thought you had the vision, the dream, the drive to say, let's launch another version of this.
Yes, for sure. Well, working with Latino leaders, if I'll share a story with you if that's okay. When
Please.
my husband and I, we were newly married, and we felt called to missions in Chile, both from South America and Chile, and we felt to come to Canada as missionaries. On our first flight was the least expensive flight, and so it stopped in many, had layovers in many different places, cities, and countries. And we were so excited that we were going to be in Miami, in the North American airport for the first time, and we were going to be there for 6 hours. And my husband was so excited because he wanted to go to Miami Beach. And so we went to the taxi driver, and the taxi driver said, "No, you won't have enough time and to go and come back." So we stay at the airport, and all of a sudden, you're in a place where nobody knows you, you don't know anybody, you're there for a long trip, and all of a sudden a lady started looking towards us, and I can describe her like Mary Poppins because she wore a big coat, a big hat, a big bag, and she came to us, and in English she asked us for money. So in our broken English at the time, we tried to explain, well, we don't have very much money because we're missionaries, and we're missionaries on our way to Canada, so we don't have very much American money. And so she said, "Oh," and she opened her big bag and she started putting all her money on my lap, all the wrinkled bills, everything. And she closed the bag and
Wow.
she said, "God bless you." And she walked
Oh,
away.
What?
And so we believe, God opened our hearts
Hmm.
to the new culture that way, because we arrived on a Thursday in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada, and on Sunday my husband was asked to give his testimony, and on Monday the church, in a Canadian church, and they hired him, and we started our ministry in 1987. So we worked in Canadian churches for many years. But then we went to a CPC in 2002, and I was working in children's ministry in a church, in a Canadian church. My husband was the youth pastor, and I went there we went to the CPC in San Diego, I remember. And INCM was working with the kind of national conferences, but they were also doing 1 day seminars in English, and they wanted to start the 1 day seminars in Spanish. And they asked my husband and I to be the directors of working with that. So we were traveling from Edmonton to the US, different places, and we will ask the Latino pastors, "What do you need?" And they will say, "Training and resources." And so the Lord put in our hearts to continue with the training we were doing at the time with INCM, and since changed through the years. And we continue with Entre Niños, but we also research about resources. And we found amazing resources in Spanish, but the Latino churches didn't know about it. So the Lord put in our hearts to start with the magazine Entre Niños. Right now, the magazine, it's a free download, and it has articles in English and different articles in Spanish, and you can go to our website and download it. But training was a very key factor for us through the years. We were doing 1 day seminars throughout the US, Latin America, but there was something else that the leaders wanted. They wanted to be serious about the ministry, and they wanted to commit to something. I, I don't I don't think that we found any Latino leaders in the US working in Latino churches and in Latin America that have a formal education in children's ministry. They are generally volunteers, and they may have other professions, or they may have other careers, but in children's ministries they didn't have that. So I was always looking for something for them. And so when I met with Dr. Denise and said, "Can we do this in Spanish?" And I invited her to come to one of our conferences. We were doing a large Latino conference in Miami, in 2019, I think. She came and she did a breakout, and she was able to see what the Latino leaders wanted, what we wanted, and we were able to come together and put this program for Latino leaders in Spanish and online.
And thank goodness that you did. I mean, that is a tremendous amount of vision, and vision, I think, is amazing and wonderful. But it also takes a leader who will continue to push, continue to work, continue to make connections, continue to bring in the right people. And it is so clear that you have spent incredibly intentional time doing that. Um,
Thank you.
that that sort of thought of resources and training, you hit the training point, but just behind you, I can see two copies of a book that would fall into that resource category. And so, really, my introduction to Entre Niños was through the
Yeah.
book. There you go.
Yes.
Um,
Loving the book. I
so,
don't
can
have
you?
the
Yeah.
Latino one though.
That's
The
okay.
Spanish one. But
Still,
the
Uh,
Latino information is in that book too.
right.
it is.
Can you share a bit about how it went from how you all went from training leaders to the development of this resource of this book?
Yes, thank you. Again, if we were dreaming with Dr. Denise, what can we do? We wanted to, she invited me to work together in a proposal for an endowment. And we did all the work, but in order to work on the uh, I would say the presentation and for that endowment or the requirements, we needed to do an investigation. So we needed to research what we thought we were going to do. So if we're saying we want to do this, but we want to know we want to have some backup. So we developed, we were able to sit at the table, and this is very unique. All these years of ministry in Canada and the US and Latin America, I have always seen Spanish resources that have been translated from English to Spanish. They don't, they have not culturalization, I call it, or contextualization, and they're just translations, which is great. The content is good, but in this case, what we wanted to do is start from scratch. So we partner in developing the questionnaire together. So we had some graduates from the Master of Arts in Children, Youth, and Family Ministry from Bethel, and we had a group of the Entre Niños team, and we developed this questionnaire together. We went back and forth. Okay, what questions? How can we apply the same question to different contexts? And we were able to do that. So we sat at the table, and that is very unique right from the start. Then we decided to translate that into Spanish and send it to non-Latino parents, non-Latino ministry leaders, and then to the Latino parents and Latino leaders through Entre Niños. And we were very excited to receive almost the same response in just 2 weeks. It was very short time, and we received almost the same response from all over the globe. And we were able to take that information that the Bethel research team gave us all the results. Unfortunately, we didn't get the endowment, and but we thought, nothing is wasted. And also, we need to this information, especially for the Latino leaders. We don't know of any other type of research that has been done at this level for Latino leaders or in this capacity. So we need to do something. And that's when we decided to, with Dr. Denise and Shelley Henning, we're going to take all the results and develop and not only summarize it in a book, but also include the implications, what the responses indicate, and at the same time include ideas of how the church can respond and how the parents can respond. What we also wanted to keep in the book both researches on the same format for non-Latino and for Latino leaders. And then our team, with the Antoninos team, we didn't just translate the English book. We were working at the same time. So I was working with Denise and Shelley with the English book. And at the same time, I was working with the Latino portion of the book. So it was very intense, but we wanted
I
to
mean,
make sure.
it sounds to me like your name should have been on the book twice. I think at
No,
this
no, I
point.
Top and
didn't mean
bottom.
that. I didn't mean that. I'm just saying that it's very unique because we were invited to the table. I
Right.
mean, we were not a second thought. We were part of this research. We were part of this book, and the results are incredible. The response from the Latino community, Latino ministry leaders, and parents is just incredible. We're so excited.
Well, and certainly the book, one, we will make sure that the link to purchase this book in both translations is in the show notes of this episode. What's been one surprising, sort of delightful thing that has happened since the book has come out? One interaction or one story you've heard?
Yes, thank you. Because it was in Spanish, was published by the United Bible Society. We were invited to do a teaching tour in Chile. And imagine we went back to Chile to do a training tour with the Chilean Bible Society. We went to different cities. And in one city in the south part of Chile, we did the training and the whole morning, and it was very exciting. And in one of those breaks, in one of the breaks we had, a pastor come to talk to my husband, and my husband has done soccer camps in Canada for the churches. And so he said, "What? Uh, this is amazing. We've been trying to connect the church or the churches to come to the community, like connect with the families. And this is the first time we feel that this topic can be addressed." And he was the president, I think, of the pastoral council of the city. We didn't know, and he had connections with the mayor of the city. And he said to my husband, the mayor is a Christian, and he's been trying to get evangelical churches connected with the community. So would you guys be open to come to a conversation with him? And so we said, sure. Yeah, we're thinking tomorrow or something. And it was the same day after we finished the training. We went there, and we show him the book and the topic, and can you come, please? Because we want to bring the churches with the community together, and what better to do than a soccer camp for kids? So my husband just returned. That was in November, and my husband just returned from a mission trip. He took two more coaches with him, and they just finished doing a soccer camp for indigenous children.
Wow.
And that is incredible because the evangelical church or the community or the city have not been able to connect with those families. And we were able to do that. So we're very excited.
I am just soaking in the fact that you just said all these ministry opportunities, they hinged on the children. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of the families that, generations from now to come, might have a legacy of faith because their child
Mm-hmm.
participated in a soccer camp or got involved in their local church event. And it just
Mm-hmm.
shows,
Mm-hmm.
the beauty that we have between partnering church and home. And uh, I'm in my feels right now and getting a little emotional just thinking about.
Danelle, I don't want to speak
Go
for
ahead.
you.
Go ahead,
But
because
I
I'm
think that
having a moment.
no, it's okay. I think when we hear stories like this, it's just such a reminder to us that God is doing something
Yeah.
far beyond the
Yeah.
walls of our local church or our little house, my house, your house, outside of Virginia, outside of North Dakota. Like God is doing something on a global scale.
Right.
And sometimes we get so boxed in that we don't get to talk to leaders who are experiencing those
Mm-hmm.
things in far away places. And so I think when we hear it, it just sort of takes us a second to remember, oh my goodness, God is very, very big, and
Yeah.
his gospel is being proclaimed in many, many places.
Yes. And when you asked me about a key element for the Latino community or Latino parents or ministry leaders, I want to say that in the many of the Latino churches in North America are functioning the same way that they will function in Latin America. And there's that concept of spiritual formation only happening at church, that the church is responsible for the spiritual formation of children because the Latino parents are busy doing 2 3 jobs, and they're busy trying to survive, and so they leave that responsibility to the church. So coming to share with them about the informal education that we explain in the book, that it is the day-to-day activities and the formation, spiritual formation of the parents, it gives them such a big relief because their thinking, their thought is about having a formal time to share about the Bible stories and singing. And they're thinking we need to replicate what's happening at church. But when we come to them and say, you have little time and you're really busy, but having opportunities on those special moments and instigating questions, and even the challenges that Latino parents are facing in this day, they can share with the children and pray together. Come in that moment of faith and share that faith. That is a spiritual formation. It's really transformative for them.
Mhm.
And it's also transformative for the church because the church and the ministry leaders who are volunteers, I'm talking about the Latino leaders, volunteers that also have all these other jobs, and they're also volunteering to do ministry at church. They can say, hey, we can have a partner with the parents. We don't need to feel like one of the questions was in the book is who is responsible for the spiritual formation? Oh, what are the barriers for the parents not doing, not sharing the life, spiritual life with the children? And they say, well, the parents don't care. This is not a priority. We have a hard time communicating with them. And the parents were saying, we don't have time. Like we don't know how
Wow.
to do it. So
Right.
having this opportunity to tell them, no, we can work together and share the responsibility is transformative.
Right. And what a breath of fresh air as as
Yes.
parents, Andy and I and you as well, Dr. Luz, like you remember those days of
Yeah.
parenting and you're just
Yes.
trying to keep your head above water and then if someone's like you need to also do these things, that is overwhelming and really hard. And so I can just put myself in those parents' shoes and say,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. I just
Yes.
need to be and I need to lean into, the people that are around me that do love and care for not only myself, but my children and, their faith. And so that is such a beautiful reminder for all of us.
Well, and what I love is, I mean, I think I'm sitting here thinking about my own ministry context, my own parenting context, and when I may say, I don't have time, it is not because I am working multiple jobs to put food on the table. It is not
Mhm.
because I'm thinking about meeting basic needs. It is because my life is consumed with other opportunities and other hobbies. Whereas in the context that you were just describing, it's the same lack of time that comes from a different reason, but the strategy, the solution is the same. It's
Yeah.
taking advantage of informal education, taking advantage of everyday moments, encouraging parents to find those moments as they have them. And so it's such a beautiful thing that regardless of
Yes.
the context, that the strategy remains the same. That partnering
Yes.
church and home is going to be done in this day-to-day, over time, uh, you know, informal kind of way.
Little by
Yes.
little. Yep.
Yes, yes. And the need for the church to continue reinforcing a spiritual formation for the adults, for the parents, and for the
Mhm.
ministry leaders, so that can flow and can be part of the everyday life at home and at church for them.
Yeah.
Really.
Mm. Yeah, that is so true. I've noticed even with myself, the days when I don't want to set aside some time to spend with the Lord are the days, and the days that I choose to, and I fight for that, are the days where I am it's almost as if I can see a little more clearly the opportunities that are given to me as a parent with my own children that I might have just kind of blown through, missed, ignored, to where God's like, "Hey, this little tiny moment." Like I can think just the other morning we're driving to school, and you know how siblings are, and you can't look out my window, and you can't look out mine, and this little exchange happened between my kiddos, and the youngest was yelling at the oldest, and she said, "I wasn't looking at that," and he said, "What?" And she said, "I was looking at our house," or she was looking at some other thing, and he had judged her. And I just quickly was able to say, "And this is why we can't judge. We don't know what someone is thinking. We don't know what somebody is feeling." And did the sermon go any farther than that? No. But I know for a fact that that moment is going to matter in the future. That we're
Mhm.
Right.
these tiny little things that we're laying down for our kiddos are going to build up to be foundations for them over time. But there was no, craft that went alongside this.
Right.
There was no lesson plan at
I mean,
all.
I do. I think, Danelle, we've talked about that on this podcast. We want it to be a place where we can really be vulnerable and tell the truth. So, was that
Right.
that soft tone you told that story in? Is that how you said that to the back seat? That
I
very soft,
I
gentle tone.
actually did. That doesn't mean the moments before that
Sure,
were
sure. This is a
soft.
safe place. This is a safe place.
Stop it.
We have all raised our voice at
I
one
feel
point and
I
and
feel
felt bad about
threatened.
it. Um, So, Dr. Luz, you are traveling the world. You're promoting a book. You're training leaders all over the place. What does an off day look like for you? How do you find rest? How do you find relaxation?
That's a very good question. uh, I have to pause and think about that.
You probably haven't had an off day in a while. I think we need to
we
prescribe one for you.
Or said a different way, what really brings you joy?
yes, yes. I think I am being with my family. I am a grandmother, and we have two children now, four because they're married, and we have three grandchildren. And just spending time with the little ones, it just brings me so much joy. The only thing is that our daughter lives in the other province, and it's 12 hours and drive, and so we don't see them very often, but we see our other granddaughter here in town. So it's just having those times as a family to just relax. I also love walking, and so I go for walks, long walks, and I enjoy that. I enjoy nature too. But yeah, I wish I would do that more.
Oh, that's great. I know it can be hard, prioritizing rest or just time to recharge, and whatnot. I'm curious, are there any current struggles that you're going through in ministry, whether that's with all the wonderful work that you do with Entre Niños or even just local context or um, anything like what is this? Have you been in a difficult wilderness kind of season, or what's been going on in ministry life?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, let me pause on that as well. I think that we all face seasons in leadership of feeling, and not only feeling but knowing that this is bigger than ourselves, and I have to go back continually to God and say, God, you're going to provide for this, right? You're going to
Mm.
provide for, we have this opportunity. And Entre Niños is a ministry of faith. We're all volunteers in the ministry, and it's amazing. We have a team of about 20 people that from all over the place, from different countries, and we have teams that we work together. We meet regularly, and for example, we're working with the new edition of the magazine. We're working with the certificate team. We're working with the social media and communication team, different teams, and they're all volunteers, and it's just amazing. So it's always I feel responsible for the team and responsible to be praying that the Lord will provide for them. We provide for Entre Niños, for all the different initiatives and different work and traveling and all of that. So I think that the Lord, these 20 years, I can look back and trust, like Psalm 71, I can trust that since my youth, you have been there with me. And that is, and I think it's in a good way because it makes me rely on God's provision in every aspect of the ministry. So but it's not easy. So there's some days that I said, God, I don't know how we're gonna do it, and it's not just, it's easier to share it, but it's hard sometimes to experience that. But at the same time, to experience God's provision, God's peace, and the direction for the journey.
Thank you for sharing that.
Dr. Luz, as you think about leaders who are currently in a local ministry context, whether that be here in the United States or in Canada or in Latin American countries, anywhere really in the world, who are struggling to figure out what's next. I selfishly, because we're on the podcast together today, I'm thinking about my local context here in Virginia, where it's I serve at a predominantly white church, but we are beginning to see a little bit of meshing of different cultures coming into our church, and I really feel ill-equipped. I feel ill-equipped, and so what would you say to that leader who, especially in an American context, who is trying to foster relationships with the Latino community, with other communities that are unlike their own, or have differences? There are lots of similarities. How would you encourage that leader?
Yeah. Thank you. It's a very interesting question because I was sharing in my breakout at D6. I will be there sharing this topic, and sometimes we just focus in. I presented a new model, okay? We just focus on the church or us as leaders and the Latino families. But we forget that right in the middle, right at the center, should be the message we carry. The message is the unifying connection, is what connects us, should connect us. The message that we carry is the gospel, and the gospel is peace, and the gospel is love, and the gospel is relationship, and the gospel is loving each other no matter what background we have. So that message should we always be the center. So when we remember the center, because really the gospel is Jesus, and Jesus is in us and with us. Jesus is with those families, and Jesus is the message, is the word. So we go back to that. So that gives us strength in and assurance that whatever we do for the families will have to be always centered in the message. And as a practical advice, it's always about relationships. So sometimes I receive questions from Anglo or non-Latino ministry leaders. We're trying to do programs and we invite them. We have food, we have all this things, but they don't come. And I will always tell them, start with relationship, not with programs. Start with reaching out. get interested in what are these families, what do they like, what they don't like, who is the grandma or the grandpa or the family context, what are they doing, and so trying to get that information, and as a good neighbor, as saying, hey, I want to get to know you. And then you will realize with that message, with the center, with Jesus, knowing that I want them to know about the message I carry, but what do I do? Always start with the relationship. And I mean, relationship is one of the strongest characteristics of Latino identity. So it's not just scriptural, but also cultural. So I think it just, for example, I remember talking to one, in one of the conferences, to one non-Latino leader, and I gave her the advice, and they started doing visits to the home, not to just to spend time in the home, but just to bring, for example, when it was Valentine's Days or special occasions, so not just Christmas, but friendships and things like that, just to bring. They were interested to finding out about the birthdays of the children, and not just give them something at church, but going to the house and, you know, maybe bring a gift there, or having the quinceañera when the girls turn 15, and or when there's a birthday, just, just or a phone call or something that is valuable to them, which is relationships.
Mm. Danelle, my sister, we have just had a
What?
master's class
I
in
know.
how to partner with families in a local ministry
I,
context.
I told you we were going to learn. Man, it was beautiful. Beautiful.
It
Well,
was. It was.
if I can add one more thing, just to
Sure.
encourage you, the Latino identity is not defined by just the language.
Hmm.
If many Latinos in Latin America, we speak both languages and sometimes at the same time. Like we're talking in Spanish and we put some words in English, and so the language is not the only defining factor. So don't feel that because you don't speak Spanish, you cannot relate to Latino leaders. Love language is way stronger than the different types of languages we speak.
Man, I am so glad you said that. I mean, we have aimed to bring people onto the podcast and find practical, tactical next steps. And I feel like I'm walking away with several today. Dr. Luz, thank you so much for your time today. I know it's, trying to squeeze this in amongst your very, very busy schedule. But I think the folks that listen to this are going to walk away with a deeper understanding, really how to partner with any family, but certainly a deeper understanding of what God is doing in partnering church and family all around the world.
Yeah. Thank you. What an honor to be here with you and Andy and Danelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We hope that you have a wonderful trip. You're jetting off at the end of this week and traveling the world. And so we pray that you will just take the gospel wherever you are headed.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us this week. It was so great to connect with you, and we hope that you will pass this conversation on to someone else who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to all of the Nurturing Faith Collective things that are out and coming. So we will see you soon.